that's kind of what I wanted to say about all that. That's what I've been up to. Now, I'm going to just do one quick visit to one tradition from the periodic table, which, if you don't know, is a sort of map of all these different traditions and why they're important, and how studying them can help bring us to a place where scholarship and learning and education becomes more important than killing and fighting. You know, I'm a believer in education, obviously, with Alfred. So let's just choose one at more or less random. Okay, so we've got number 110. I like this one. It's under the New Religious Movements category, which is the grey boxes, of which there are many, new religious movements. Fascinating, and some people don't even know there are new religious movements. They think there's just the old school ones. But no, new religious movements is a thing. And this box, 110, is what we call the New Age, which is a fairly eclectic mix of fascinating thinkers. I've been fortunate to meet some of their key, intellectual leaders. I was close friends with Sir George Trevelyan. Used to go to his meetings at the Wrekin Trust, which he set up. He was a pioneer of the New Age. He was a great believer in poetry, and he pioneered adult education for religious studies, as I've done. It's a shame he died, really. He was from that great liberal tradition of the Trevelyans in Britain. Cornish, great man. And yeah, he loved Steiner. He was my sponsor when I joined the Anthroposophical Society back in the 80s in London. I used to work as the librarian for one summer at the Anthroposophical headquarters in London, where Rudolf Steiner's collected works are. I helped catalogue the library, including some obscure manuscripts that hadn't been seen for decades. Another founder of the New Age tradition would be Jacob Boehme, a German intellectual, theosophist really. William Blake would be another, who Trevelyan was always quoting. And Swedenborg, who was an esoteric Christian in Sweden, another seer. So basically the New Age, and the term, by the way, is found in St. John's Gospel, the idea of a new eon, is that we will put behind us the darkness and confusion of a world based on lies, deceit, cruelty, torture, violence, all that stuff. And we will outgrow it by doing correct thinking, by doing correct intellecting, to use Abelard's phrase. We need to be, rigorous in our intellectual rejection of things that cause grief. Like a medical doctor, the New Age is a medical proposal for healing the planet, and many of its great, contemporary exemplars have carried on in that tradition. I've given talks about the New Age as a religious phenomena to the University of Wales and elsewhere, and I think it's interesting. Alice Bailey was another person that used the term New Age. She was a channeler, esoteric theosophist. William Bloom is another who I've met and worked with. Peter Caddy, who founded the Findhorn Foundation, is another. Peter Russell, David Spangler, Louise Hay, Abraham Maslow in his own way, and Carl Jung as well, who believed that by deeply studying comparative psychological approaches to healing, we could get some sort of collective healing. He worked for UNESCO on this. And Assagioli, another great founder of psychosynthesis, David Bohm, Rupert Sheldrake, Ryan Eisler. These are people that believe that as humanity we can outgrow this chaos and confusion. And it's not a threat to anyone. I think one of the saddest things is that, I don't know why, but a lot of very right-wing types, sort of neo-fascist types, have started a huge witch hunt against all this and say it's all run by the devil. That is just not true in my lectures, in my academic study. On the contrary, it's with St. John and with the spiritual brotherhood of light that have been behind trying to get human history to move in the right direction. And the three Magi that visit the baby Jesus were obviously part of that. A.R. Orage, Gurdjieffian, Uspenskian was another. Gurdjieff and Uspensky themselves, Nicholas Roerich, Blavatsky herself, Berdyaev, the great existentialist Russian intellectual. You know, they've all been arguing that we can transcend this chaos and confusion. Idris Shah in Britain bringing Sufism. You know, the Sufis and New Age exemplars, Rumi, we have to change the way we think and our inner spiritual world in order to manifest peace. So it's an important tradition, and it's not you know, it hasn't finished its work. We're still going, but you know, we need to be intellectually robust to combat the kind of attacks that and the kind of people that attack the New Age are very narrow nationalists who think, well, New Age for us only, like Russia's Putin mob. They're quite intelligent people, but they're neo-fascists who want, well, the New Age is for Russia. We're going to be the top nation. There's the extreme Zionists who say, yeah, we want a New Age, but we're going to run the world. We're the Israelis. We've got the atomic bomb, and we'll kill you if you don't agree. Certain types of Americans that have misinterpreted Christianity to mean Americananity, and that their kingdom will have no end because they've got more bombs than anyone else, and if you don't like it, well, you can just be blown up. You know, these are the people that attack the spiritual wisdom. They attack the UN, they attack Roosevelt's legacy. I've been also busy listening to a fascinating work by Saul Bellow, who was a great Jewish intellectual, writer, novelist, who I read as a teenager. I loved his work. And I've just discovered he left a load of essays about political and cultural events and literature, which I'm listening to as a talking book. And Saul Bellow has a brilliant mind. He writes brilliantly about Roosevelt, who he admired very much as a young boy. He grew up in Chicago in not a wealthy family, Jewish family that had struggled to have enough to eat on the table. Fascinating life, and he talks about how important Roosevelt was at bringing Americans together and having a faith in history, a belief that things can improve, because after the horrors of the Depression, when people were committing suicide and capitalism took a nosedive, America just lost its way. Some people are marching around saying, we should become fascists, let's set up the silver shirts and we'll be fascists. And Roosevelt managed to, with his quiet, calm confidence and his knowledge, he was an educated man of Dutch-American origin, he managed to level with the American people, says Saul Bellow, and I agree with him 100%. He said, look, we're never going to get out of this mess unless we start telling the truth to each other and to everybody. As a president, he said, I will always tell you the truth, point straight, and he stuck to it. And I think that's the miracle that Roosevelt pulled off, which Saul Bellow describes, and it's fascinating. Do read that work by Saul about his. He also goes to Israel and the Sinai Desert after the Yom Kippur War. He goes to Spain, and it's very interesting, Saul Bellow's take on recent history. He's dead now, but a great man, I would say. He's also rather scathing of the French left. He comes to Paris, where everybody's reading Sartre, and he says, don't they realise Sartre never talks about what Stalin did? He never talks about the camps, never talks about the horrors of Stalinism. It's like, what does he want to do? Gloss it all over? Doesn't he know? Is this a conspiracy of silence? I mean, it's very interesting, actually. The French left, and it's sort of ignoring of the excesses of applied Marxism. I mean, Marx was a very clever man. I've done a commentary on Das Kapital, there's no doubt. A genius, inspired by a lot of French socialists in and around France in the day. But the applied Marxism that came through Stalin and Lenin was very different. Not really Marxism at all. It was something entirely different. It was Narodniki gone crazy with bayonets and guns. And Saul Bellow knows all that. And I think he rightly says to his French intellectuals, he says, well, why are you all being quiet about this? But he did have some friends and colleagues among the French. I think now he would have a really interesting conversation with Macron, who also knows about this stuff. And as I said last week, did do a degree in philosophy with Paul Ricoeur, another great a modern French intellectual who, also would have understood Saul Bellow's perspective, and mine, I think. So that's that. Okay, we'll let's pray that the new age can come and that we can succeed in repairing the world, because that's one of the key Hebrew terms, tikkun, which means repair. And Rabbi Michael Lerner, the great Jewish savant in American Jewish life, who was a kind of New Age rabbi, my kind of rabbi, he edited this journal called Tikkun. That's the work we have to do. Okay, we're going to do a God card to finish, because it's that time of day, that time of the week, and I think these gods are important because they're like archetypes of the divine that we need to get through this. Now, if you're a Jungian and you say, well, okay, the gods don't actually exist, they are the collective ideation of generations of people who believe in Izanagi, the creator god of Shintoism, millions of Shintos over the centuries, and it's become a sort of thought idea out there, an archetype. Well, that's fine. That's fine. You can take that view, or if you say that about Hermes or Thoth, or you say it about Yahweh or El or any of the gods of the god cards, or Keridwen, the goddess of the moon in Druidry, or Luke, or Apollo. But I still think they work as energies, even if they're not actually like real, whatever that means, independently verifiable material entities that can be measured and weighed. You see, I don't accept that as the definition of what is real. In the Hermetic scriptures, which was the Bible of Haran, by the way, they said this is our book. I think I'm with the people of Haran here, which was the home of Abraham. The Hermetic scriptures say it's the spiritual world that is the true world. The world we can touch and accumulate possessions and money and riches, that's not real. That fades and goes. It's your inner soul that is real, that's all. And I think these gods are mentors to that soul journey that we're all on. So in that spirit, I think we'll just see who wants to come in today. We'll just do one. Well, there we are. Hello. So I mentioned a few Druid gods. I didn't mention Dagda, who is actually the king of the earth. He's an Irish deity. And I love Dagda because I learned about him when I went to Ireland and met Druids and studied the traditions and read the stories. And I said this before, but we need him for several reasons. One, he has a cauldron of plenty that is never exhausted and that can feed everyone. He's like the Irish hospitality. You knock on an Irish house and say you're starving, they'll feed you. There's a tradition of hospitality, it's still alive there. And Dagda will make sure there's food in the fridge to be able to do that. We need Dagda to sort out the problems of hunger. I mean, look at the poor people of Gaza and other war-torn regions, but particularly Gaza. We need ceasefires and truces and a backing down of the combatants so that the good people of the UN can take in supplies and feed the people. That's a job for the Irish peacekeepers and others. And of course there'll be extremist Zionists who have this fixated, no, we're going to destroy everyone. I mean, they're even now saying just kill all the Palestinians, you know. It's shocking what they're saying. Well, Dagda's saying, not on my watch, you know, I'm still around, yeah. And I am actually the king of the earth. It's interesting, I discovered this week that there's a new script being discovered in Byblos, which was the centre where the alphabet was first created by Phoenicians, who were travelling around and about the Mediterranean and around Britain. And some of the scripts in this Byblos alphabet, is probably what it is, are very much like the Ogham script of ancient Celtic Druidry. And I'm just thinking maybe there was a link that the Celts of Ireland and the Phoenicians were in touch with each other. I'm sure they were. The legends say they were. But so I think the point here is that every culture and civilization is interconnected with every other. And our ancestors are all interconnected, which is why the Sioux, the Lakota prayer is Mitakuye. We're all interconnected. So let's give thanks that Dagda is still with us, and may we together work with that energy to, you know, heal the sick and feed the starving. Talking of which, I've been fasting all day because I always fast on a Sunday before the Philosophy Club, so it's my weekly fast for peace. But I think it's dark enough now, I'm going to break it and have something to eat. So thank you. And thank you for listening. May this coming week be educative for all of us. Mitakuye.